Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into the truly monumental life of Jahangir Ratanji Dadabhoy Tata, though you probably know him simply as J.R.D. Tata. We are setting the stage today for a massive story, one of incredible industrial scale, soaring aviation milestones, and profound societal impact. Seriously, this is the man whose vision literally helped build modern India. But here is the real mystery we need to unpack first. How exactly did a French-born secretary, someone who was actually drafted into a regiment of Spies in the French army, eventually become the father of Indian aviation and the head of the subcontinent's absolute largest industrial empire? It's a wildly unexpected origin story, and the path he took is nothing short of extraordinary.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Our explainer today covers 5 chapters. First, from Paris to Bombay. Second, taking to the skies. Third, building an industrial empire. Fourth, philanthropy and controversies. And finally, legacy of an icon.
All right, Chapter 1, from Paris to Bombay. So J.R.D. Tata was born back in 1904 in Paris to a Parsi Indian businessman father and a French mother. His upbringing was, well, it was incredibly chaotic and totally multinational. By the time he was just a teenager, he had lived in France, moved over to Yokohama, Japan in 1917, and later relocated to London for his studies. Because he held French citizenship, he was actually drafted into the French army in 1924. But get this, here's a brilliant little detail. Because he could read, write, and most importantly, type in both French and English, a colonel pulled him right out of the Grulin trenches and assigned him to be a secretary in his office. That little administrative skill quite possibly saved his life, which allowed his father to bring him back to Bombay in 1925 to join Tata Sons as an unpaid apprentice.
Now, you have to know that before he became the highly serious chairman of a massive conglomerate, he had this very youthful, speed-loving personality. In fact, he once got into actual legal trouble for driving his Bugatti way too fast along Bombay's famous Marine Drive. He had to hire this colorful lawyer named Jack Vikaji just to defend him against the charges. And in a really charming twist of fate, Tata actually ended up marrying that lawyer's niece, Thelma, in 1930.
Moving on to Chapter 2, taking to the skies. And this brilliantly illustrates where that need for speed eventually went. Growing up, Tata's family had a house on the beach in France, and their neighbor was none other than Louis Blériot. Yes, the legendary aviation pioneer and the very first man to ever fly across the English Channel. Just being around Blériot sparked a fire in J.R.D. Tata that would completely, fundamentally change the trajectory of Indian transportation forever. So the crucial point here is that J.R.D. Tata didn't just casually enjoy flying on the weekends. He made history. On February 10, 1929, he officially obtained the very first commercial pilot license ever issued in India. He literally held license number 1. That same year, he completely renounced his French citizenship to become an Indian citizen, fully dedicating his airborne ambitions to his new home. Just 3 years later, in 1932, Tata Aviation Service took to the skies. Picture this. On October 15, 1932, Tata himself was at the controls of a de Havilland Pussmoth, piloting India's very first scheduled commercial air transport service. He lifted off from Dragan in Karachi, flew down for a mail drop at the Juhu Airdrome in Bombay, and the route eventually made its final touchdown all the way in Madras. This humble little mail route grew, step by step, to become Air India, the national carrier. Which brings us to Chapter 3, Building an Industrial Empire. In 1938, at the remarkably young age of 34, he was elected chairman of Tata Sons. To really grasp the sheer scale of his leadership, we just have to look at the numbers. When he took over the conglomerate, the Tata Group's assets were valued at roughly $100 million. Half a century later, when he stepped down in 1988, those assets had absolutely exploded to over $5 billion. Under his steady hand, the company grew from a modest 14 enterprises to a sprawling network of 95 enterprises. The breadth of this empire is just staggering. He founded Tata Motors in 1945. He started the Tata Computer Center, which we know today as the IT giant TCS, in 1968, and Titan Industries in 1987. From the Tata Salt sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now to the Voltas air conditioners in your living room, his leadership ensured that these brands permeated the everyday lives of millions. But wait, it's not just about the money. Despite his immense wealth and power,
He cared deeply for his workers. Way before it was a statutory requirement in India, he championed the 8-hour workday and free medical aid. In 1979, Tata Steel instituted a truly groundbreaking practice. A worker was deemed to be at work from the exact moment they left their front door until they returned home. This made the company financially liable for any mishaps on their commute. Jamshedpur, the city where Tata Steel operates, was even selected as a UN Global Compact city because of the incredible quality of life and welfare provided to its citizens.
Now, let's look at Chapter 4, Philanthropy and Controversies. To truly understand the man, we have to look at his broader social impact, starting with his monumental charity. As a trustee of the Sir JRD Tata Trust for over half a century, his philanthropic footprint quite literally shaped modern India's scientific and social landscape. He established Asia's first cancer facility, the Tata Memorial Center, back in 1941. He also founded the Tata Institute of Social Sciences and the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. His vision was clearly focused on building the intellectual and medical infrastructure of a newly independent nation. Now, what's really interesting to examine is his political stance during a highly turbulent time, which presents a much more complex historical picture. In 1975, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared emergency powers across India. Tata was actually supportive of the emergency at that time, citing severe disruptions to industry, things like massive strikes and boycotts. He expressed the controversial view that the parliamentary system wasn't suited to their needs at that specific moment. This really highlights the immense pressures of operating a massive conglomerate during a period of intense national upheaval. That period of emergency also introduced another deeply complex layer to his legacy. During the 1970s, the Indian government controversially pursued forced sterilizations for population control. Building on those overarching national efforts, in 1984, Tata Steel opened 9 family planning centers. The company actively incentivized employees to undergo sterilization by offering financial compensation and even giving awards to the factory departments that had the lowest fertility rates. Now, as impartial observers, we see 2 distinct sides to this. On one hand, Tata was globally recognized for these population control efforts, even receiving the prestigious United Nations Population Award in 1992. On the other hand, these very incentives raised profound medical ethics concerns. Critics forcefully argued that tying employment rewards to sterilization severely compromised a person's fundamental bodily autonomy. It is a stark juxtaposition of global accolades and very deep ethical debates. Finally, Chapter 5, Legacy of an Icon. So how did the world ultimately recognize this multifaceted life with deep global and national reverence? The French bestowed upon him their absolute highest order of merit, the Legion of Honor, in 1983. The global aviation community awarded him the Daniel Guggenheim Medal. And in India, he received the Padma Vibhushan in 1955, which was eventually followed by the nation's highest civilian honor, the Bharat Ratna, in 1992. These accolades perfectly reflect his dual French-Indian identity, as well as his massive dual impact as both a master aviator and a titan of industry. J.R.D. Tata passed away in Geneva, Switzerland in 1993 at the age of 89. His final words, spoken just days before his death, were "Comme c'est doux de mourir," which translates to "How gentle it is to die." It is profoundly poignant that his final spoken words brought his life completely full circle, returning to his native French language before he was ultimately laid to rest in the Père Lachaise cemetery in Paris. Back in India, the parliament was adjourned in his memory, an extremely rare honor for someone who was never actually a member of parliament. Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. If one person, starting as an unpaid apprentice and an army typist, can simultaneously pioneer a nation's aviation network, redefine its heavy industry, and drastically shape its social and scientific welfare, what undiscovered potential lies within our own multifaceted lives? It's a remarkable legacy that challenges all of us to aim just a little bit higher. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and until next time, keep learning and keep exploring.